Hi, this is Vanessa Zamora. We are at PubCon 2009 in Las Vegas, and joining me now is Krista Nair of Bootcamp Digital and still Marketus, but Marketus is your blog now,
Yes,
correct?
absolutely.
Okay, so we are on the first day of the show, and Krista just came from the Twitter landscape session on hot topics and trends. Can you share something interesting that you heard in the session?
Yeah, what I thought was hands down, the most interesting thing about the session is we had 4 people who have all had success with Twitter. All really smart people, leaders in their industry who have been very successful using the tool. They all had completely different approaches. And so to me, that was one of the most interesting things because, Twitter is used really differently by really different people. And so I think sort of the diversity of approach on the panel helped to underscore that. So for example, Warren Whitlock, who wrote Twitter Revolution, spoke at the beginning. And his key message was listen and love, right? So listen to what someone says and then share love back with them. Be nice, basically. Which is, a very organic, touchy-feely approach to social media. You then had Dan Zarella, who talked a lot about he's just recently published The Science of Retweets, which is extraordinarily interesting, but it takes this very, scientific, somewhat impersonal approach to thinking about Twitter, where you can just say, okay, well, if I want to get retweeted, I should think of structuring my message in this way, which isn't really conversational. It isn't the same kind of approach that Warren's talking about, yet both of these are successful. Chris Winfield then talked a lot about his own successes. And a lot of it is just kind of quirky, random questions and, asking people their points of view on different things. So it was really interesting. And I think what it speaks to is the fact that Twitter is a really diverse tool and there's so many different paths to success that you really need to think about what makes the most sense for your company and what's really a good fit for you.
And in your experience, which one do you find most effective?
I think if you look at the companies that are really, truly the most successful, it's those that treat it as a conversational tool and as a way to build genuine relationships. And so I think if you're approaching it from a mechanical standpoint and you're just trying to push content out through it and get people to retweet your content, you can do that and have some success and you'll get some links through that. But I don't think that's truly the power of Twitter. I think the power is in being able to really communicate with people, build relationships, and have them want to talk about you, have them so excited that they'll want to tell everyone that about your company. PubCon is a great example where, it's a conference that people have a lot of affinity towards. You don't have to go and scientifically think about how you're going to structure something for people to retweet it. They retweet things about PubCon or they talk about PubCon because they love the conference and they have a connection with it. And I think Twitter helps to build that. It helps to build the love and the connection. And that ultimately leads to people talking about it over time. So it's a little bit more of an organic approach, I think, that I've seen be most successful with the people that I work with.
Can you now share with us a success story that you've had using a social media site with relation to one of your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that freaks people out a lot about social media is that people are going to say bad things about them. And they're right. Depending on your company, but probably some people will say bad things. I had a client who recently launched an internal forum. And so it was a forum for people who are already users of their product. And the first thing that happened was somebody started a discussion thread about their terrible customer service. And it had 150 responses. So on the one hand, it's great. Wow, you just launched forums. 150 people commented. Oh, but they're all talking about how terrible your customer service is. And so I sat down with the company and I said, well, and they were freaking out, right? They were like, maybe we shouldn't have done this. Maybe this is a bad idea. And so I said, well, is your customer service a problem? And they said, yeah, it's one of our biggest problems. And I said, okay, well, are you doing something about it? And they said, yeah, we have this plan in place. We're insourcing some of it. We're doing this. And they were doing all these great things. And I said, that's awesome. And that's what you need to be telling people. So rather than being afraid that people are telling you your customer service sucks, say to them, okay, listen, you're right. We're not satisfied either. And these are the 5 things we're doing to fix it. Do you have other ideas? And so help them to feel like they're part of the team and you're both on the same page versus us against them, which what was happening was it was kind of, we hate your customer service. And then it was putting the company on the defensive. And so we worked together on creating, a really quick bullet point message that came from the CEO. He posted it on the forum. And from there, the whole conversation flipped. because people felt validated. They were happy that the company cared and was doing something. And so then the conversation flipped and people were kind of, then offering advice or even kind of like backtracking on what they had said. Like, well, actually, it wasn't that bad. The guy wasn't so mean. And, it was weird, but just feeling like someone really cares and is listening and wants to work with you can turn people around really quickly. So that was a good example where something that started as a big negative turned into a positive for them.
Awesome story. And then lastly, will you share, there are tracking services out there for companies to find out what sort of online presence they have or what people are saying about them in the online space. Can you share this with us?
Yeah, there's different levels depending on what you want to pay, right? So if you start sort of with free, Google Alerts is probably it's like so basic, but it probably is one of the best free services you can use. And sign up for Google Alerts as well as their blog alerts, and that way you get incoming blog traffic. But that probably is one of the most basic things that you can do. And then from there, you can also mine individual sites like through search.twitter.com. Twitter, which we've just been talking about, it's really important for companies to monitor that and know what people are saying. And most third-party apps have good sort of search and notification techniques. The two that I'll mention, one is CoTweet, which CoTweet is a fantastic, hands down, best tool I've ever used for managing a corporate Twitter account with multiple contributors. And one of the things it'll do as well is, it tracks your @replies, but it helps you manage them almost like how you would manage an inbox. So you can mark something as done, you can send it to someone else, stuff like that. So it's really cool from helping you respond, but it also has search built in so you can get notified when your keywords are used. TweetDeck does the same thing. If you sign up for TweetDeck, you can get notified. So for PubCon, for example, obviously during this week, it would go off like mad, but you could set up an alert. So in the background on your desktop, you have TweetDeck running and it'll just ping you every time PubCon gets mentioned. So that helps you to stay up to date, real time. But in terms of probably from like a holistic point of view, for larger companies who are willing to invest, two of the best tools out there are Radian6. So Radian6 does social media monitoring, so it'll monitor the chatter, and they have their own interface, and that's through Vocus, which is I think the parent company that runs that. And then Buzzmetrics, which is a Nielsen company, also has a really, really good tracking tool. So in the paid categories, those are probably the best two to look at.
All right, awesome. Thanks for the information, Krista, and thanks for joining us today. I hope you have fun at the rest of the show.